Welcome back, 5th grade. We're going to do fractions times fractions problem solving right now. So the first step is let's read through our problem. As we do that, let's identify the important information within that problem, and we're going to identify what question is actually being asked. So here's our problem. It says, Miss Fowler's dog Raven is on a diet. Raven usually receives 7/8 of a cup of dog food. Miss Fowler would like to give her half of her normal serving. How much food should Miss Fowler give to Raven at each feeding? So let's go ahead and identify our important information. So here we've got 7/8 of a cup is how much she usually gets. And it's saying, well, Miss Fowler wants to give her half of her normal serving. Well, if her normal serving 7/8 of a cup, our other important piece of information is half of her normal serving. And the question that we're asking is, how much food should Miss Fowler give to Raven at each feeding? Okay, so let's see the word of right here, as we talked about before, tells us that this is a multiplication problem. So I'm going to take my two fractions here, so 7/8 and my 1/2, and that's going to tell me how many cups of food that Raven's going to get at each feeding. So again, we're just going to multiply numerators times numerators and denominators times denominators, and that's going to give us our fraction. So if we do 7 times 1, we get our new numerator of 7. Keep my fraction bar. 8 times 2 is 16. So Raven's going to get 7/16 of a cup, or almost half a cup of food at each serving. Okay, we're going to do one more problem. So let me go ahead and clear this out, and we'll work on our next one. Bailey would like to make some chocolate chip cookies. However, due to her quarantine, she realizes that she cannot make a full batch. Because she is following social distancing guidelines, she can only make 3/4 of a batch of cookies. If the original recipe calls for 7/8 of a cup of sugar, 1/2 cups of butter, and 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips, how much of each ingredient will Bailey need to use now? So the first thing is we need to identify our important information. So the first thing that we know is she can only make 3/4 of a batch of cookies. Then it says the original recipe calls for 7/8 of a cup of sugar, 1/2 cups of butter, and 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chip. How much of each ingredient will Bailey need to use now? So what this tells me is that I need to take my 3/4 and I need to multiply that by 7/8, by 1/2, and by 3/4. So for the sugar, Bailey is going to do 3/4 times 7/8. For the butter, Bailey is going to do 1/2 times 3/4. And for the chocolate chips, she's going to do 3/4 times 3/4. And if you guys notice, I did not put 3/4 first here. I put 1/2 first in the butter because using the commutative property, it does not matter which order that I multiply in, it'll still turn out to be the same thing. So to find how much sugar that Bailey needs to use, I'm going to do 3/4 times 7/8. And remember, we multiply numerator times numerator. So 3 times 7 is 21. And then multiply denominator times denominator. 4 times 8 is 32. And I can already tell you that that is in simplest form. So she needs 21/32 of a cup of sugar. Then for butter, same thing. We do numerator times numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. And denominator times denominator, 2 times 4 is 8. So she needs 3/8 of a cup of butter. And for chocolate chips, Numerator times numerator, 3 times 3 is 9. Denominator times denominator, 4 times 4 is 16. And again, that's already in simplest form, so she needs 9/16 cups of chocolate chips. And there you have it.